Hello everyone, welcome to this PMDG 737-800NG tutorial for Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. Today we will be going over how to start this aircraft from cold and dark all the way to being on the apron ready for taxi. So this is very straightforward. We're just going to get the aircraft in the cold and dark position ready to go. So to do that, we're going to head on over to the FMC right here. We're going to go to PMDG setup. We're going to click on state load. We are going to click on cold and dark. We are going to click on cold and dark right here. We are going to hit execute, and we are going to wait for everything to power down, and we're just going to give it a couple of seconds here. We're going to wait for about 10 seconds. Take a look outside and check the aircraft out here. Everything is cold and dark. We got the chocks on. We've got the air stairs connected, which we're going to be removing, obviously. And the jetway has not been connected yet. So very good. We're going to head back to the cabin. And as you'll see in the cockpit, sorry, not the cabin, as you'll see, everything has been switched off. Everything is cold and dark, and we are officially set to start the 737 from the cold and dark state. So we're going to head on over to the overhead panel. First thing we're going to do is click on the battery switch right here. We're going to click on the cover. That turns on the battery. Very nice. And the next thing we want to do is we're going to want to head on over to the EFB, the electronic flight bag. We're going to click on ground operations. We're going to click on ground power request. That should be coming up. And if you look outside, you'll see the ground power vehicle connect to the aircraft right here, right there. So now that we've got the ground power connected, we're going to want to head on over back to the overhead panel. We're going to turn the ground power on, and you'll see the systems come alive here. Obviously we're not done yet. We're going to head on over to the upper overhead panel. We're going to set this guy to align and this other guy to align, both to align until they both say align right here in white text. Then we set this one to nav, and we do the same for the other one. Now, we want to get started with today's flight. Today's sample flight is going to be San Francisco to Los Angeles. So we click on this home button here on the EFB. We head on over to electronic flight bag. We click on the app. And if you're using SimBrief, which is going to be the majority of cases, you've already got your flight plan ready to go. If you got that linked up to your EFB, you're going to want to click on request data from SimBrief. That'll get the entire flight plan ready to go. Very nice. So once that's out of the way, we're going to want to head back to the overhead panel. We're going to click on the yaw damper switch. There we go. That is now on and ready to go. We're going to head on over to the emergency exit light switch. We're going to click on the cover, and that automatically arms the emergency exit lights. Very straightforward. So turn on all the window heat switches. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 of them. And we're also going to want to turn on the hydraulic pumps. 1 and 2, electric 2 and electric 1. And once that's out of the way, we're going to want to go ahead and turn on the packs, right? So we're not turning on the APU yet, but we just want to have the pneumatic panel ready to go. So the way that we would do that is turn the left pack on to auto. Valve, we're going to set that to auto. Right pack, same auto, and we're going to turn on the APU bleed. All bleeds on. Once that is out of the way, we're going to want to consult SimBrief. We're going to want to take a look at the cruising altitude. So for today's flight, the cruising altitude is 37,000 feet. Like I said, you can check this on SimBrief. That's all very straightforward. You'll see that under the title initial altitude. So very good. Our cruising altitude for today is flight level 370, which is 37,000. Now the land altitude, for San Francisco, we can do that with Navigraph charts. So that's pretty straightforward. Let's go ahead and open up our Navigraph charts app. So we're going to make that visible. And as you can see, we've got everything loaded in here. We've got the origin, the destination. We've got the charts for San Francisco International. We're looking at the airport diagram for San Francisco. So right here, we're at Terminal 1, I believe. I'm not entirely sure, but I think we are at Terminal 1. But anyways, what we're really looking for is the airport elevation figure. So it says that it's 13 feet right here, right below the ICAO and IATA codes for the airport. You'll find airport elevation 13 feet. Very straightforward. We're going to head back to the simulator. We're going to close Navigraph charts and we're just going to dial this in. We're going to round it to the nearest 50. So since 13 is already closer to 0, we're just going to leave the land altitude to 0. Very straightforward. Now, what we want to do here is we want to select either ignition left or ignition right. Whichever one you want is fine on the engine starters. So I'm just going to go with ignition right. Very straightforward. Now, you're going to want to check the lighting situation here. Make sure your position lights are set to steady and make sure your anti-collision lights are set to on. So, that being said, that's pretty much all there is to do on the overhead panel for now. Okay, so the next thing we're going to deal with here is the EFB. Okay, so we already requested our flight data. Now the next thing we're going to want to do is click on departure. That gives us our weather for departure. This is going to come in handy later. You have things like the altimeter. You got things like your winds, visibility, etc., etc. And that's going to be very useful for us. Now, what we want to do is head on over to the FMC. And this is very straightforward. If you're not using GSX, I'm going to make this a non-GSX integration tutorial. So we're just going to type in the weights manually. We're going to head on over to FS Actions. We're going to set up our fuel. So very simple. You're going to get to SimBrief. You're going to want to get on over to SimBrief. And there should be a title that says block fuel on SimBrief. So your block fuel, our block fuel for this flight is 11,986 pounds. So we're just going to type that in here, 11,986. That's our fuel for this flight. And we're going to go ahead and click on payload. So how do we get our payload? Same thing. We head on over to SimBrief. We head on over to SimBrief and we are going to take a look at the estimated zero fuel weight, right? So you're gonna have to have your SimBrief flight plan open so you can follow along. Look for the title in the load sheet section that says estimated zero fuel weight, ZFW. That'll be your figure, right? So for us, it's 118,855 pounds. Yes. We're going to round that to the nearest decimal. the nearest tenth, right? So in that case, it'll be 118.9. Put that into zero fuel weight right here. Click on this button, obviously, and you get your zero fuel weight. And that will automatically load up your aircraft according to your sim brief weights. So we're effectively loaded up. I'm not going to go into detail with the ground services. That's all pretty straightforward. You can do that either from the EFB or from the FMC. You can request different things such as swatter, fuel truck. You can release the stairs here. But we're not going to focus on boarding right now. We're just going to focus on getting the aircraft started. So, very good. That's out of the way. We're going to head to the FMC. We've got the AirAC updated to the latest version. And we are going to head on over to position initialize. Okay, so you're going to want to type in your origin airport. In this case, for us, it's San Francisco. We're going to want to copy the position, paste that in IRS position right here, and that sets up the IRS. Okay, so we're going to want to click on route. Let's click on route. Let's go ahead and clear the text here. 1, 2, 3, 4, clear. Let's click on flight plan request. So like I said, if you have your aircraft hooked up to if you have your PMDG 737 hooked up to your Navigraph account to SimBrief, all you have to do here is flight plan request. But of course, if you don't have that, if you're not willing to do that, then you're going to have to enter in your route manually. But for the sake of simplicity, we're just going to go ahead and request our flight plan from SimBrief, the one we have loaded in SimBrief. So let's click here. We're going to select our SimBrief route, which is San Fran to LA. Let's go ahead and select the route. Okay, that's been requested. It's going to take a little while to populate the fields here. And we're just going to wait for that. Okay, route uplink ready. We're going to hit load. We're going to wait for it. Activate, execute, and there we go. We've got everything ready to go here. The route is effectively loaded. Now all I want to do is just set your departure and arrival procedures. So we go to departure for San Francisco. We're going to bring the Navigraph charts out, and we are going to take a look here. We are going to take a look at the Navigraph charts app, and we will see that our departure is Wesla 5. Wesla 5, Susie transition, departing from runway 28 left. So we're just going to go ahead and dial that into the FMC. Let's get rid of Navigraph charts, and let's go ahead and select the departures. So let's take a look. We are at San Fran departures, and we're going to go ahead and select Wesla 5. Let's click on that. We're going to select 28 left. Let's click on 28 left. That's selected, and we're going to select the Susie transition. Okay, so that is ready to go. Very nice. Let's head on over to arrival, however, and we're going to bring back Navigraph charts. Let's bring that back, and we are going to select our arrival for LAX. So runway 24 right, sorry. Arrival is the Ironman 2 arrival. Transition is Burgle. Yes. But there is something we want to do here. What do we want to do? We want to select our approach. Right? So very simple. Let's just go ahead and select the approach. Let's take a look. We are taking 24 right. Let's just go with the ILS approach. We have no transition that connects. Sorry, we have no transition that connects to Burgle. So we'll go with the final transition. We are going to have to vector ourselves out from Gatto all the way to final. But let's just select final. We're going to add that to the route. Now we have the full picture. It's ILS 24 right, no transition there. Let's go ahead and dial this in to the FMC. So first things first, we're going to select the star. It's Ironman 2. We're going via Burgle. And we're going via ILS 24 right. Nothing else to do. We're not selecting a transition, and glide slope should be on. Execute. At this point, your whole route is ready to go. What we do want to do is click on the legs button, and we want to make sure that the route is actually complete. So the way we do that is we go up here to this panel, we flip this over to plan. Now this allows us to take a look at our route in a top-down way. It allows us to trace the route actually. And the way that we do that is by going down here to the FMC. We click on this button next to step, and that'll progress through every waypoint. So let's go ahead and do that. First we've got Wesla, we got Porte, and we've got a problem. Susie, how do we fix this? Well, we get rid of the yoke. We lower that, not get rid of it. So we can see the FMC. And let's take a look. So we're going to want to connect Susie to eBay. There's a discontinuity, very simple. All you have to do is click on eBay. It's pasted into the FMC's scratch pad. We're going to the previous page. We're going to put that below Susie. Execute. And there we go. Let's try this again, shall we? So we have Porte, Susie, and now we're connected to eBay. Very simple. We have eBay, Burgle, Do It, Crowy, Muppet, MDOTS, all the other waypoints that lead us to the end of the star, leading up to LAX. And after that, I'm not going to get into too much detail, but because there's a vector, we're going to have to vector ourselves out to Mersey. Yes, but we're not going to cover that in this tutorial. This is just a simple cold and dark tutorial. Nothing to worry about there. Let's not worry about it. But the route is complete. That gets us to 24 right. Now, let's set this back to map. The route's looking great. Next thing we want to do with the FMC is head on over to initial reference. Init ref, performance initialization. Very simple. Like I said, if you are connected to SimBrief, if you have your flight plan loaded, very simple. All you have to do is perf init request. That will give you all of your information and everything you need. However, you might find the cruising altitude to be incorrect. So we're just going to want to make sure that that lines up with our selected cruising altitude of 37,000 right there. 37,000. Okay, so we're going to load. We're going to hit execute. And that indeed does not. No big deal. We'll type that in manually. 370. There we go. Execute. Everything else is fine. We're going to head on over to the N1 limit. Now this is where it gets interesting. We need to select our N1 limit and our climb thrust level. So the way we want to do that is by heading over to the electronic flight bag. We're going to click the home button. We're going to head over to the performance tool, and we're going to get over here to the takeoff section of the EFB. So in airport, your airport iCal should already be filled out. If it's not, just fill it in manually. You got the airport name, you got the runway ID. We're going to take off from 28 left. Elevation should be correct. Everything else should be fine. Aircraft is pretty straightforward. Flap config optimum, rating optimum. Anti-ice configuration is off. Weight, we're just going to import that from the aircraft. Very good. That's all set. Air conditioning should be on for takeoff. And we're going to import the weather, so all of that looks pretty good. We're going to hit calculate, and that will give us the takeoff performance information. So let's go ahead and head back to the FMC. Select temperature is 51, rating is takeoff 1. So again, 51, takeoff 1, that's all selected. The climb D rate should be selected automatically. No need to worry about that. We've already got everything dialed in here. We're going to head back to the EFB, and we're going to need to get our flap setting, and that's pretty much it. So flaps 5. We're going to enter 5. We're going to double click the center of gravity. That gives us the trim setting. And just go ahead and click on the V speed. So 1, 2, 3. That's ready to go. Now, I'm just going to leave this out. I'm not going to go into too much detail with the FMC. We're not going to worry about this for now. We got the V speeds. That's all that matters. And okay, so now that the FMC is dealt with, now that that's out of the way, we are going to set up the autopilot. So let's take a look here. We want both flight directors on. It's got a better angle there. Okay. The captain's flight director is on. The first officer's flight director is on. We want auto throttle on. We're also going to want to type in the V2 speed into the speed selector. So that's 139, as we saw in the FMC. The runway heading appears to be already configured. That's great. And we're just going to select the altitude, the cruising altitude, just to simplify things. If you're flying on VASIM, then they'll just assign you an initial altitude. But we're going to our cruising altitude, straight up to cruising altitude, because we want to keep things simple. We're not using ATC right now. So that's all good. VNAV, LNAV, both on. Both should illuminate if you did everything correctly in the FMC. By this point, the autopilot panel has been effectively set. Let's just go ahead and set the altimeter very quickly. I'm going to do that manually just to keep things realistic. So the way we set the altimeter is very straightforward. We go ahead and scroll here on the standard knob, the knob with the standard abbreviation on top of it. So let's scroll on over to 30.03 inches. Great. And okay, that is pretty much it. So we are good to go. We're good to go at this point. And now the next step is to fire up the APU, right? So we head on over to the overhead panel once more. We open the left forward fuel pump. That'll be forward 1 if you want to get more technical. This one right here, click on it, wait for that low pressure sign to extinguish. There we go. Let's click on the APU starter. We're going to start it up. It's going to get going. And if you take a look at this gauge right here, it'll go up to about 800 to 900. And that's going to be the APU starting up. So it should say low oil pressure. There we go. It's starting up. It's going to climb right up, then it'll settle around 4. And there we go. It's going to plateau right around there. It's going to come down. And okay, very good. So while we wait for that, let's just go ahead and take a look on the outside. We do have a couple of things to do. We got to remove the chocks. We got to close the door and remove the air stairs plus the ground power. We will be doing that shortly. And as you can see, the APU is now firing up. That's great. That's beautiful. That's the way it should be. Okay, let's take a look here. Let's get back to the overhead panel. Let's turn on both of our APU generator switches, this one and this one. 1, 2. And in this case, we can now start to get rid of the ground equipment. So let's take a look here. Let's head on over to ground operations. All right, so first things first, we're going to engage the parking brake. So there you go. Depending on how you have it set up, you might have to press on your brakes and then click it, or just click it. You can try both to see what works. But that depends on whether you have the parking brake engagement set to simple or realistic in the FMC. But yes, just set the parking brake. It's pretty straightforward. And okay, now that the parking brake is engaged, let's go ahead and remove the chocks. There we go. That should get rid of all the ground surfaces. The door is closed, stairs going away, chocks are gone, and that guy's gone. The ground power unit is gone. So at this point, we are pretty much good to go. So let's just take a quick look around here. All right, so the air stairs have left. We've got everything set up, FMC, autopilot. We've got the overhead panel ready to go. And we're looking pretty good. One thing though, you are going to start up the engines. We will be starting up the engine shortly. In order to do that, left pack and right pack must both be off. Let's make sure of that. And at this point, we are pretty much ready for a pushback. Now, I'm not going to be using GSX, even though I do own GSX. I am going to use the built-in pushback. Why? Because not everyone has GSX. So let's go ahead and get that started. Let's go ahead and push back. So actually, I'm just going to go back to home here. Let's leave the EFB there just for reference. And we are going to do the pushback. So the way that we do this is by going to FS Actions. We go to pushback. And here we have the pushback information. So let's take a look here. Distance to taxi line. For the sake of this tutorial, and keeping it simple, I'm just going to leave it as it is. We do want to worry about push style. So we're going to go with the standard L, which is the most common type of pushback. We're going to turn the nose to the right. Degrees 90. Chocks have been removed. And we're just going to select the tug. Any tug will do. Let's start.
Go ahead.
Just get this back up.
We've been cleared for pushback and start. They want the tail to our left. Roger that. Ready to push. Tail to the left. Parking brakes off.
Okay, we're going to release the parking brakes. There we go.
Brakes released. Brakes released. Here we go.
All right, so we're now pushing back. Let's go ahead and start the chronometer right here with this button. The chronometer is now running. Let's start engine number 2. Of course, before we do that, we're going to want to turn on the other fuel pumps that have fuel in them. In this case, the center pumps do not have fuel in them, therefore we do not turn them off. We only turn these fuel pumps on. We're going to set engine starter number 2 to ground. And we are going to watch N2 climb up. And at around 15, we're just going to go ahead and turn on the fuel right here. The fuel flow goes on for engine number 2. At around 15, that's going to go ahead and get started. It's going to do its thing. And we'll just take in the scenery here. So this is Flight Beam's San Francisco International Airport. A beautiful rendition of this airport. And of course you can find that on several flight simulation marketplaces. It's a great scenery. But let's get back on topic, shall we? Let's go ahead and take a look here. Engine 2 has started. Great. Now we've been instructed to set the parking brakes. Let's do so. Now that engine 2 is started, we're going to want to set engine 1 to ground and just repeat the same procedure for engine 1. So wait for 15, then flip on the fuel switch, and that's it. The fuel flow. Great. Number 1. So that's starting up. Just keep an eye on it. It'll come up to about 20.9 once it's fully running. All right. Pushback crew is clear. There we go. It started up. So let's head back to the overhead panel and let's take a look, shall we? So we're going to want to connect to generator 1 and generator 2 now that the engines are running. Great. And fasten seatbelts should definitely be on. You should have turned that on earlier, my bad. But, you know, just a minor detail. Okay, great. So now that's out of the way. Window heat is on. We're going to want to turn probe heat on. Okay, great. Let's turn both packs back to auto, left pack and right pack. APU bleed can go off. Let's turn on the taxi lights. Let's turn off the APU. Let's turn both engine selectors to continuous since we will be taking off shortly. Both are set to continuous. Great. And that's it for the overhead panel. We're going to want to set the auto brake to RTO for rejected takeoff in case we need to abort the takeoff. We're going to set the flaps to 5. I just use F7, so that's 1 notch, 2 notches, and 3 notches right there, and that is flaps 5. You'll see that get up to the appropriate flap setting, so it should just stop at 5. No need to babysit it. Now let's head on over to the FMC. Let's get back to initial reference. Let's get on over to the takeoff info. And we're going to want to take a look at the trim settings. So we need 4.88 for trim. And we're going to set that in the trim wheel. So 4.88 should be somewhere around here, closer to 5. All right, other way around. Okay, let's take a look here. Sorry about that. Okay. So much closer to 5 than it is to 4. That should be about right. The trim has been set. And with that being said, we are pretty much ready to go. At this stage, you can test out the flight controls. You know, you just go ahead and you turn full right, full left, full right, full up, full down. Then you continue with the rudder full left, rudder full right. And everything is pretty much set up, right? So by this point, you're ready to start taxiing. All you got to do is just disengage the parking brake and get going. And that's it. That is the PMDG 737 cold and dark tutorial. We took this aircraft from cold and dark all the way to sitting on the apron with both engines running. I really do appreciate you for watching the video. Give it a like if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want more similar content. It's been a pleasure, and have a great day.